Viewer discretion is advised.
I've been bored lately. Horror has been feeling uninspired, hollow. Repetitive ideas, uninspired executions, recycled tropes, and just doing whatever is trendy without understanding why it was so effective in the first place. Monsters without metaphor, screams without silence. It's like online horror has become this Ouroboros, eating its own tail, thinking that if it just chews hard enough, it'll taste new again. I miss that feeling of seeing a new horror story and thinking to myself, hey, that's a great idea. Why hasn't someone thought of this before? Now it's all just, oh, that reminds me of this, and this reminds me of that. And did someone already do something similar to this already? It's been kind of dull around here. Maybe I should go outside more. I saw something. It was out there, over the lake. I couldn't tell if it was walking or floating, but it was just staring at me. And then all of a sudden, Oakburn Opus is the greatest horror story I've come across in a while. Ever since I first watched it on livestream many months ago, it's all I've been thinking about. I'm not sure if you could tell. Okay, that's not entirely true. I have bills and shit I gotta focus on too. But in terms of horror stories, there's something about this particular one that has got my hyperfixation in a chokehold. It began 3 years ago on the YouTube channel REDDIAMOND. Its creator, going under the same alias, has created some of the best visuals I've ever seen in analog horror and in independent horror, with some of the best presentation and execution, and it's all just sitting here on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. What Oakburn Opus is, to me anyways, is an underrated gem. I haven't felt this passionate about something coming out of independent horror in a very long time. This is the type of horror that trusts you. It trusts you to be patient, to notice, to try and put things together, to sit in discomfort without being yanked out by loud sound effects or exposition dumps. Every piece feels intentional, like the creator isn't just telling a story, but is building a world out of negative space. And I'm about to tell you all of the reasons why this thing deserves its flowers. I will be reviewing and discussing all of the theories and happenings in Oakburn Opus, but I highly encourage you to watch the original series yourself before listening to me ramble about it and spoil the entire thing. You might have heard of this series series first from Nexpo and now Nightmind, which, just to clarify, I had the idea for this video long before him. It's just taken me like 2 months, okay? I also suggest you watch those analysis videos because a lot of their theories and observations will also kind of be noted here in this video. With that all being said, let's talk about this haunting little story. This is Oakburn Opus.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Now open for business, the Dreamy Designs merch store. We finally have Lazy Bedhead official merch thanks to the lovely people over at Fourth Wall. We got some cool graphic t-shirts custom designed by yours truly.
Do you guys like my hat? Huh? Who likes my hat? Do you like my hat?
Check out my hat. That's been worn a lot since I bought it, actually. It's got my 3 logos from the past 3 years, and the quality of the embroidery is actually really impressive, and I just love it a lot. I love this hat. Ow. But we got more than just clothes. We got mugs, patches, and stickers. Look, we even have the Voidling sticker pack. I'm gonna put these little guys on all sorts of things, including the things I shouldn't.
I'm so proud of myself. I know, I am the artist of a lifetime.
Also, if you're a part of the Patreon, you can get some discount codes when you shop. Another good reason to support the channel. Buy my merch! Link in the description. Oakburn Opus is set up in 2 separate story arcs. VHS stories, and then Oakburn Opus, the flagship series. In order to tell this story in chronological order, we need to start with the VHS tapes, starting with The Circles. So, in the midst of analog horror becoming a popular content style in horror, Circles sort of reflects on, at the time, the trendy storytelling beats of VHS style aesthetics. And although you'd think that this would be like the beginning of another analog horror, I promise you, it's not. The video opens up with a circle. Wow, the title of the video. One of the first things I note right away as a positive in its quality is the sound design. In fact, the entire soundtrack of Oakburn Opus is incredibly eerie, in a sense that it uses grainy distortions of already existing old-timey classics and brings them into a horror setting. With this type of storytelling, it brings new meanings to the tracks. The Walton Files does something very similar with its own soundtrack as well, whereas the Walton Files uses certain soundtracks to convey the conflicting tones of this story. The music in Oakburn Opus are used in pairing with the setting, as most of Oakburn Opus takes place in the rustic and isolated mountain town of Itzovik. I think that's how you say it. A lot of the music is very country and fitting for getting the feeling of where all of this takes Place. December 5th, 1986, in Itzovik. Itzovik. I think I got it. Alaska is a very interesting place to choose for like a horror setting. It's always been like kind of like this mystery place for me anyways, as it's a state that is way off from the rest of the Americas, and it's got some of the craziest weather conditions with a nearly 24-hour day cycle sometimes in the summer months, and then sometimes very little sun during all of winter. Also, Alaska, in comparison to other states, has a pretty low population of 750,000, and about 70% of Alaska remains unexplored. Also, a fun fact that won't totally play into the story at all, I swear. There's a lot of cults in Alaska. Like, there are so many cults. I actually discussed one of them. It's called The Body many years ago. It's fucking wild. But anyways, our story begins in the late 80s as we read a transcript from a character named Ethan Astor. Welcome to Itzovik, the town where I live. What you are about to see is my town's haunting. We are not haunted by ghosts or monsters, but by simple shapes. What we are watching is the paranormal investigation of Ethan Astor, documenting the strange phenomenon happening in his small town of Itzovik. God damn it. But rather than this being a haunted town or an urban legend living in the wilderness or an alien invasion, actually, don't rule that one out just yet. This is Alaska we're talking about. The town is being haunted by circles. Just circles. the horror. Ethan explains that when the circles show up on the rare occasion, the entire town is evacuated. Again, over circles. You know, it makes me curious. I wonder if this ever happens in a school where a teacher is like,
Okay, class, settle down. Class is about to begin. Please turn your textbooks to chapter 3. For today's math lesson, we are learning the circumference of a circle. Pay attention, everyone. Now, when calculating for the What is the matter? What's the problem? Oh, god damn it. Alright, kids, pack your shit, we're leaving.
the tape continues to explain that people who choose to stay in town during the circles events are usually never seen again. They probably left town and stopped talking to everyone because the town is stupid enough to be fucking scared of circles. Real Americans ain't afraid of no goddamn circles. We get on one knee for the flag, and the other knee's for your daddy. The tape continues as Ethan decides in 5 days to stay during the circles event to document what happens. There's a chance he may never be seen again. But hey, you know, ghost hunters have risked their lives before, so I'm sure this will be fine.
Is he dead? He's dead, right? Oh, he's dead. Yeah, there's a camera laying at the bottom of the floor. Alright, let's get this and get out of here.
I'm glad they find my death so hilarious.
December 10th, 1986. The Astor House. We see a snow-covered cabin in the woods. Then, we're shown a note from someone named Martha that reads, "Ethan, this is going too far. I no longer feel comfortable around you. You haven't spoken to me or left the basement for days. By the time you read this, I'll be far away. Please seek help." You know, given the context of this letter, I'm starting to think that I'm watching an incel's manifesto tape. Obviously, this was a total overreaction on Martha's part. Ethan was just trying to play a COD marathon with the boys. Listen, I've lived with basement dwellers long enough to know that they're not doing anything nefarious. They're just summoning the portal of darkness with the boys. Normal stuff. Anyways, Ethan starts filming different parts of his house. Currently, it is 5 degrees outside, and for the most part, this is your standard wooden cabin that your grandpa probably vacations in once a year. The whole time, in the background, there is a radio playing the song "Make Your Own Kind of Music," which is funny because now all I can think of is that Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal meme. As the music fades and the lights in the bedroom flickers, a darkness enters from down a hallway. The circles begin showing up on the walls, the doors, and the wind picks up as the night falls. There's a TV broadcast that is hard to make out due to the glare, but I think it says, "Anomalous event approaching. Itotsevik. Seek shelter immediately." The clock ticks on as a countdown begins. Circles appear on the television as we cut to a shot outside. And oh my god! Okay, can we just talk about this for a second? Because, like, how the fuck? The visual style of Oakburn Opus is something that I've never seen before in analog horror. Most analog horror is fairly easy to pull off. Hell, I can probably just do it right now. I just put a couple of grain filters on here, and I'm starting to look real analog right now. Most analog horror won't include animation. It's just still images and then some text on the screen. This is incredibly impressive. And it's not just this. Check this shit out. Was that? You know what? I will tell you later. But just know that I think this looks really fucking cool. Oakburn Opus is more than just a slideshow of grainy videos. This is a visual spectacle of special effects, animation, and editing to make something that feels really unnatural and unnerving. It's really unique and going beyond what any other series has done with this style before. Part of the issue I've had with analog horror in the past is how a lot of series don't push themselves outside of the format. This does that and so much more. So as the circles start forming, weird stuff starts happening. Technology gets all fucked up. There's this weird knocking on the doors and windows. And Phil Cypher's eyeball starts hypnotizing me. Oh god, the clock is spinning in circles, and the circles are on the walls, and the lights are circling, and I'm spinning in circles, and there's so many circles. Oh my god, all the circles. Also, fun fact, the circles are squishy. Then we get this weird character sketch of what I assume is Ethan shifting his gaze back and forth as he explains a cycle of destruction and rebirth. A curved line of events with no beginning. No. I'm sorry. What the fuck was that? Oh, no, yeah, sure, that's totally fine. I'm sure that this bodes nothing evil or sinister at all. Circling light and shadow through time and space. Okay, yeah, Ethan, buddy, whatever you had to say. I'm just gonna go back here for a second. Let me just... Oh no, yeah, that's totally normal. A line which has never been born, yet still exists. You know what? I have a theory. I think Martha just wasn't really into poets. You know what? She just wanted to be with a jock that, like... What do jocks do in Alaska? Like, wrestle bears or something? And you know what? Let her go, Ethan. The hoes who don't get it, don't get it. That's on them. We want to hear more squishy circles. And as the circles entrench Ethan, he leaves us with, I'm happy now. Oh, okay, I get it. So he saw the giant eye of Sauron in the sky and was a big Lord of the Rings fan. That's why he was so hyped about this thing. The tape ends with Ethan's closing remarks of now joining the circle, and that's where the circles ends. This is a really cool little video on the internet. I quite like it a lot. I think the best part of this is probably the ambiance. This video makes you feel uneasy in its musical choices, the color scheme with these deep reds and browns, the weird circles having a squishy noise as they appear. I see this video entry get compared to Uzumaki by Junji Ito a lot, a story about spirals infecting a town and driving everyone insane. Although I see the inspiration here, what Red Diamond does with this concept is turn it into an urban legend and phenomenon that the townspeople just avoid and rarely document, whilst Uzumaki is more symbolic of a natural disaster. I mean, there's nothing natural about any of this, to be fair, but the context is different. Uzumaki is under a curse, the curse of social decay that punishes the townspeople by twisting them into convulsions and madness. Meanwhile, this is disappearing people, whilst giving into madness. Very similar, but I think Oakburn Opus takes from its inspiration well and turns it into a different kind of story. But this is just the first tape and it's only like 7 minutes long, so all I can say analysis-wise is Ethan is bitchless because of circles. Next video. We get a very old film of some sketches of woods and the Vitruvian Man drawing of a man with a bunch of goat skulls for a head. The Starving Five is very different in presentation than the first tape, being more of that analog horror thing with big text on the screen and images doing weird stuff. The date is December 21st as we read. There's a place of unforgiving cold, of desperate cruelty. We are starving. The engine is dead. A flimsy wooden shelter keeps us away from the snow. Oh, okay, so I get it. This is just a teaser trailer to advertise Alaska. Come and visit Alaska, where we either get too much sun, not enough, or giant fucking circles in the goddamn sky. Alaska. God, it's fucking cold up here. We see this cabin in the woods. The cars parked are stuck in the snow. The doors are ripped with scratches on the loose wood. Heat escapes through the cracks. Our skin hardens. Animals sing and hiss, but nothing is seen. We are starving. We see more of the inside of this cabin. There are 2 shotguns in the corner and animal skulls on the walls. We learn that this is a hunter's cabin with residents Gary, Natasha, Alex, and our narrator as he notes that they are not starving alone. The woods are dark. The snow is blurring anything you can see in a 5-foot distance. We see someone sitting in a dark room, and then suddenly, they're not there. The entire time you can hear something in the background. A growling noise. And then we're awakened by tapping on the walls. The anxious dreamer, wandering unconsciously. Will you follow him The shotguns, one at a time, goes missing as the footage transitions into a ringing phone. It's December 17th, and we read the transcript of 2 characters. Do you believe that she's still out there? Alex, it's been a month. She is dead. The city is hostile. All it takes is one detour, a miscalculated step, and you're gone. But Gary still has, albeit naive and delusional, hope that we can still find her. And who would dare take that away from him? This is the least we can do, I suppose. We will look for nothing, and we will find nothing. And somehow, that's supposed to numb the pain? Perhaps. People disappear and are forgotten, year after year. And everyone turns away because they fear the truth. Perhaps the mere attempt, even if it's redundant, to find the truth can take us away from this melancholy. Tomorrow, we will leave in the morning. Natasha will give us a ride. As we have seen, Gary, Natasha, Alex, and Dimitri are staying at a cabin stranded and starving. This phone call gives us context as to why. Gary is looking for his lover, someone who died and he still believes is out there somewhere. Alex doesn't see the point in wasting time on this, as our narrator convinces him to come along, with Natasha driving them into the woods. But it seems that her truck got stuck in the snow, and they're all just trying to survive out there. Out there with something. Out in the open field of the woods, Gary hears his lover's call and found her corpse in the snow. Natasha follows behind him out into the woods to help in the search as Alex sleeps through the storm. Oh. Hello. You look friendly. Oh yeah, sure, I'll starve with you too, bud. Why not? I love when my sleep paralysis demon invites me into our own demise. We then see the missing posters of Dmitry Kilov, Gary Antor, Natasha, whatever that says, and Alex Lebedev, as Alex's iris is completely engulfed in white. The sun's up. It's December 22nd, the morning after, and the cabin seems completely empty. An eyeball with an iris fogged over is asking, "Where are my eyes?" You won't starve alone. Aw, isn't that nice? As many days flash by, the eye is still fogged over. Alex is pleading to be let go. As December approaches, January, then February, and then finally... And that's it. So, what have we learned so far? Well, there's some circles in the sky that make people disappear, and a 3-headed deer man that's also making people blind and starve to death in the middle of the woods. That might also explain why there's a bunch of cults out in Alaska, by the way. With crazy shit like this, it makes me want to join a cult too. Next video. When jumping into this series on livestream, this is where we initially started, as I didn't really think that the other videos had anything to do with the mainline series. And although in retrospect you can watch Oakburn Opus and not watch the VHS tapes and the story would still relatively make sense, I think the VHS tapes acts as little lore bits that exist in the universe that I think are at least relevant in explaining what exactly we're dealing with. Oakburn Opus takes homage to the VHS tapes in its ideas, and it presents what I believe is the mainline story of Oakburn Lake and Marv Piaz. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Marv Piaz. I'm sorry. This is
Hey, what's up? It's me, Marv Pavette.
We open to a shot of Lake Oakburn on a foggy and cloudy day, as text reads, 1987, Old Oakburn population vanished overnight. In 2024, classified information from the Oakburn case was leaked by an anonymous source, hence the creation of this video, to present the new light that has been shed in the case and hypothesize what happened to Old Oakburn. Right away, the vibes of the series are very different in comparison to the VHS tapes. The only way I can describe it is like, it kind of feels like a cursed Netflix documentary. The haunting music in the background makes it feel like you're in a dream. It definitely is like a standout in atmosphere as it invokes some kind of cosmic horror. As we continue, we're given some new evidence in regards to the case, primarily the photographed evidence of something called the Oakburn flutist. The Oakburn flutist, or as we will later be declaring his name, Marv Piaz, is the main antagonist of the series, described to be a sort of perverted Pied Piper, with his flute song causing the disappearance of an entire town. Marv Piaz has inspirations outside of this Pied Piper persona of a fairy tale. Appearance-wise, Marv takes the silhouette and appearance of a satyr. In Greek mythos, the Greek god Pan is also depicted with a pan flute or some sort of wind instrument, presented as the god of nature, shepherds, and wildlife. But looking into Greek mythology, there is another satyr character whose namesake resembles that closer to Marv Piaz, and that is Marseilles. The story of Marseilles goes that a gifted young satyr proclaims himself to be the best musician, even better than Apollo. When he challenges the god Apollo, he completely flunks in his performance, and as punishment for his arrogance to challenge and think himself better than Apollo, he has his skin flayed off his body. Marv originated from Oakburn Lake and the forest, playing a song on the flute that the townspeople can hear even from miles away. He's described as an outsider, but despite him being a goat-headed shadow man, the people invite him and his songs captivate the residents in Old Oakburn. My people brought him into our village, a secluded place west of the Etotsavik Mountains. We provided the flutist food, water, and shelter, and in return, the man continued to enchant our people with the tunes of the wind. The video starts to buffer and even fake out buffers as we get this. The children adored him, smoothed by the melodic blows. Men and women respected him for the great entertainment and happiness provided by the blow flute. To the more humble folk, the flutist was a grateful form of art. At least, I'm pretty sure that's what it says, because the handwriting is dog shit. We then see what will be familiar imagery for the rest of the series. A circle with 9 triangles in the middle. Now, obviously, given the whole circle thing, we be knowing that circles be bad, right? But the triangle is a new thing. We then get this really cool art of the flutist as he plays a song that gathers the people around him. We also get this imagery of a head with the circle and triangle symbol on it. He hid them under the veil of reality, impossible to breathe beyond existence. Keep looking and follow the melody. The townspeople welcome the flutist as he assimilates into the town's customs. We then get another glitch out and this text, oh fuck me, the handwriting is fucked. Give me a second. Okay, let me see what I can read here. Hold on, I think it says, within the wind, it hid. Falgi? What are you doing in this series?
I love grilled cheese and fat bears.
Okay, never mind, continuing on. Within the wind, it breached our spirit. Within the wind, the flute burned the veil. Something like that, I'm pretty sure. We see all of these handwritten notes and drawings compiled together as evidence 1. Handwritten records from 2002. The author is unknown, but who kept these in her possession is actually a familiar name. Martha Astor, the woman who left that note for Ethan in circles. Given the same name, it's fair to assume that Martha was related to Ethan either a sibling or through marriage. Evidence 2 is a tape recording called The Magnum Opus, dated 1987, the same year Old Oakburn vanished. It said that the great flutist had announced the drop of his new album and invites hundreds of men, women, and children to Lake Oakburn to listen to his new song. This audio also appears to be recovered from Martha Astor. The audio is scuffed and impossible to make out any words with how scuffed it is, but we do hear someone mumbling, and then a bunch of cheering along with flashes of this rock as the flutist plays a red circle with triangles glows in the rock. As the words flash by, identify, interpret, follow the music. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this goes hard as fuck. One thing about Oakburn Opus that I think is effective is just how quiet the series is. I mean, sure, there's like ambient tracks and such and like loud TikTok booms, whatever, but Oakburn Opus makes you sit there in that silence and stare into liminal dark nothingness and try to make sense of all of this. I mean, sure, you get a cool flute, but like, that only lures me into a false sense of security. It's just a nice sounding flute. What's the big deal? Then I guess we start playing some sort of pick a picture game or something. And look, now Marv is pulling his coolest magic trick, walking on water and making your video buffer. You see what I mean? It just makes you so uncomfortable. And then it cuts to this. Oakburn Opus doesn't have to use loud sounds or flashing lights to scare you. It just needs to make you feel comfortable before ripping you out of your seat with the reality that it's just too quiet. It's too quiet. The morning after, Old Oakburn woke up to silence. 1,043 inhabitants disappeared overnight. After quick and inconclusive investigations, little evidence was found. The existence and whereabouts, if the flutist remained, an unanswered enigma. That was until 2003. The search for Old Oakburn's population continues. Part 1 of Oakburn Opus is truly haunting, horrific, and extremely well executed and put together. It does very much give into the old analog horror tropes, recorded tapes, presented evidence, and mysterious disappearances and all. However, what I think makes Oakburn Opus stand out is in its artistic style, tone, and atmosphere. A lot of analog horror makes you feel like you're experiencing a discovery of evidence, whereas this makes you feel like you're living the experience. Needless to say, from here, I was absolutely hooked. And part 2 also does not disappoint. Oakburn Opus Part 2 is probably my favorite installment in the series. This is where we get to see the true power and terror of Marv P.S. The investigation into Old Oakburn continues in 2003, 25 miles out from the lake at the house of the Lebedevs. Another familiar last name, if you recall from The Starving Five, Alex Lebedev went missing after going out to some cabin in the woods and starving to death. In the quiet night, inside the dark home out in the cold winter mountains, gunshots rang out as the text to follow reads, "I stood upon their blood. I stood upon the weapon. I stood before the flute, and the drowned city arose beneath my feet." We then get some pictures of an IPD crime scene investigation dated December 10th, 2003. It's pictures of the inside of the Lebedevs' home as they investigate a murder. We're shown a tape labeling the events as such, as text reads, "What stands before you, Detective Astor, is not a person. I exist, incarcerated in a vessel of the arcane. I will entertain your feeble sense of justice. I will share you my tale." So right away, it seems the address in this video is, yet again, a character going under the familiar last name of Astor, most likely addressed to Martha Astor, who has now become a detective. Oakburn Opus Part 2 is about the investigation of Martha Astor when the Etosovic Police Department received a call about a home massacre. The caller confessed to have committed the crime. The victims were Jackson and Oliver Lebedev, and their bodies were found in a photo processing room in their home, lit under red light to process the photos. Before their untimely demise, the brothers were nature photographers. Oddly, the person who would commit the crime would not only call the police on himself, but never identified himself either. Therefore, for the remainder of the evidence, we will have to address him as John Doe. Evidence 3 establishes a timeline of interrogations between John Doe and Martha Astor. Starting on December 5th, 2003, John Doe was led by the melody of a wind instrument, likely under the influence of the flutist that makes a reappearance here. According to John Doe's testimony, "From the very first moment the flute touched my mind, I was sure to have been struck by something otherworldly, roaming the depths of the lake." The testimony continues to describe the weird rock elegy from part 1, and the symbol of a circle with 9 triangles. Another symbol that almost acts as like the opposite of the other. It is a triangle with 9 circles around it. I witnessed, in clear and inscrutable reason, the flute and the man. They taught me wisdom from the bottom of the lake, the drowned city, and the millions who rest there. He raised me in that instant as a vessel. The drowned city. Could this be referring to the town of people that disappeared at Lake Oakburn? Could that have been what actually happened to them? A mass drowning? The emblem etched upon the rock, the beautiful profane assortment of circles and 9 triangles, suddenly gleamed in the crimson hue. The song wove a web, his desire in an instant made clear in the flute. I discerned the will of expansion which I was to provide. Very similar is John Doe's obsession with this symbol as Ethan was to the circles that would appear in the VHS series. Although it seems like instead of joining the symbols, John Doe would become a madman in pursuit of the symbol and the flute player. He wanders the mountains for 5 days, delusional and out of his mind, until December 10th, when he stumbles upon the Lebedev's house with a shotgun. It is common for many inhabitants of remote areas and hidden places to forget their front doors unlocked, a naive custom often conditioned by the emptiness surrounding it. You know, I used to live out in the woods, my whole life, and when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 something, our house was robbed, so John Doe, he do be spitting some facts. We never left that house unlocked again, let me tell you. Under the watchful eye of Marv and his melody, John Doe would let himself into the Lebedev home. And from the profane blade, touched by Marv Pia... fucking no. And from the profound blade, touched by Marv Pius's fangs, I cut their eyes open in the dark room. John Doe didn't just shoot these 2 men, he butchered them. Jackson was attacked first, taking a pickaxe to the thigh. Oliver is held at gunpoint, ushering his brother into the red processing room. And while this rampage is happening, you can hear the sound of a flute being played in the background, and someone breathing heavily, getting louder and louder and louder. And then... Oliver Lebedev dies. Jackson is finished off with 2 gunshots to the head. Each of their death is followed up with a symbol of either the circle with triangles in it, or the triangles surrounded in circles. And then we get this fever dream of a sequence that I'm gonna issue another reminder that this series does have flashing lights and trippy imagery that may be sensitive to those with epilepsy, so if you didn't bode the warning in the beginning of this video, please do so now, because I'm just gonna play and read over this next sequence all on its own. Oh, Martha. The sole reason I stand before you narrating my tale, contributing to your futile pursuit of a comprehensible truth, is to convey you his message. He calls you to the lake, your good friend beneath the veil. Visit the drowned city. Your failure to heed his warning will bring the same fate upon you, and the few living folks you love. You will drown too. It seems that, though Martha had tried to avoid the circles when it became Ethan's obsession, she herself has become obsessed in understanding this John Doe and his deity that is calling her to Lake Oakburn. Also, here's a funny scene where Marv is just standing in a dark corner of this room and he sprouts extra arms and it looks like he's just T-posing menacingly. And from there, the tape ends. And the last thing this video tells us is that despite John Doe's testimony, the autopsies of the Lebedevs showed that something more happened. For instance, the bodies were discoloring and bloated, almost as if they had been dead for days, which indicated their cause of death was actually drowning. Which, you know, given Marv's connection to Lake Oakburn, it's possible he had some sort of hand in their deaths. If I were to name a flaw in this series, there is a lot of reading that you have to do, more than I think like most analog horror, and the visual elements are there and still are interesting, so I do think it's like a healthy mix of like both, but Oakburn Opus is pretty straightforward in its storytelling. Well, besides like the symbolism. I don't know what the hell all that's about, but I'm sure we'll figure it out soon. But yeah, that's part 2. Another unnerving entry. And as the series goes on, the videos get longer and longer, meaning there will be a lot more reading I will have to do once we hit part 3. Welcome to the bottom of the lake. Oakburn Opus continues on from investigating the disappearance of the town and solving the Lebedev murders, following our main antagonist Martha Astor, who is gathering intel on the folklore of Oakburn, the flutist Marv Pius. We've learned so far that it's likely that the people of Old Oakburn were enticed by the flutist by his music, which seems to have hypnotic and influential power to make people either commit atrocities in his name or commit atrocities upon themselves. He is also intrinsically connected to Oakburn Lake and water, as his victims are usually found drowned despite being nowhere near any bodies of water. Okay, so we get some text that explains that 5 years after the Oakburn Lake incident, the entire town was left still and silent. A single road connects the village to its neighboring town of Itotsevik, the town that is dealing with the whole circle thing. Since the disappearance of over 1,000 people, Old Oakburn has been left neglected and nearly abandoned. I'm here now. I am home. Today, into those dark depths, I must venture and behold my secret, the very root of my curse. Okay, so I wasn't aware that Oakburn Opus was a PS1 game. Oakburn Opus has gone ham on its presentation with this one, with these 3D models, animations, and water physics. The mixed medium editing is something that I'm really impressed by. The year is 2002. Martha Astor has returned to Itotsevik. There, god fucking damn it. Likely after having left Ethan behind to deal with the Uzumaki circles. We get a transcript from Martha's audio journal. For now, all of the evidence from the 1997 phenomenon is abstract, frantic, ambiguous, and it reveals the arcane nature of the case. Manuscript findings, diaries, newspaper entries, and a cassette tape depicting the magnum opus. In some of these samples, no one notices a strange constant. Oh, yep, that guy, the silly little goober, Marv Pious. You know, he's definitely someone you want to meet. I heard he gives good massages. So Martha thinks that she's found some kind of connection to this monolith and Marv, and theorizes that it could be some sort of tombstone, and conducts a solo investigation, warning anyone who finds these tapes to avoid this place, as there are decisions greater than death. So I guess Martha's idea is that the monolith is an entrance to some sort of catacomb. How did she come to that conclusion? Well, the weird-ass door in the ground probably was a dead giveaway, you know, if I had to take a guess. So Martha goes alone down into this tomb, descending the ladder and having the door close on her. In terms of visuals, this episode is really dark. You can't see much of anything, but it's made up for in all of the reading you get to do. Yay, my favorite! This isn't exclusive to just Oakburn Opus. I think a lot of analog horror is like this, where a lot of the horror is kinda killed off by how much you have to read in order to understand what's going on, and it's not more of a visual fanfare, or even a fanfare with voice acting at the very least. But I think I can give Oakburn Opus some grace because a lot of the visual aspects, like, you know, the 3D models of cities and woods and this ominous and weird haunted PS1 game feeling. It's like, I think that's super unique, and it's really fucking cool. The quality of each episode and what they do visually is really impressive. So down in these sewers, Martha trudges through a damp, moss-ridden, putrid jungle of a flooded abyss. Exploring this place makes her remember flashes of memory, times where she was angry about obsessions and the occult, calling out Ethan and asking if he had also felt similar to this. Probably in his pursuit of the circles phenomenon, Martha is in pursuit of her own obsession, the necropolis. Well, that was fun. Anyways, Martha finds some sort of cathedral with a book being illuminated by moonlight. The book has that symbol of a circle with 9 triangles on it, and it's labeled as Evidence 4. The Book of Marv Pious. This is basically an origin story of sorts, presented in a twisted version of that Disney book opening. Ah, that looks friendly. Look at that, it's a cute little water friend. Long after the wrathful times, when the serpent's tongue no longer hissed, the drowned artist Marv Pious rises. This serpent's tongue could mean a lot of things. In biblical terms, the devil disguises himself as a snake in the Garden of Eden. And long after the wrathful times could take reference to Adam and Eve being kicked out of Eden. It could also be that the serpent's tongue is indicative of a liar. Clearly, the townspeople of Old Oakburn see this guy's songs as revolutionary, so much so that they drown themselves for him. So maybe Marv here is actually trying to reveal some sort of truth through his music, risen from the pungent waters, carrying the darkness of those eldritch depths. A burning ember boiled within the dark fire. Servant to a certain viper's sin. A trade. A price was paid, his kin spared from the gloom of the lake, and now his flesh is torment laid. Rise, a call from beyond the veil, roaming the last ring, face the fire. His wail. Marv Pious descends the mountain's height forever, white and glamorous, seeking the land of the light, the city of snow, where once 2 miracles were born from divine glow. The people of that city at the florid orange sunrise were too soon to regret their pity, for the wind hid fangs, and the maw of the drowned city opened under its arcane chants. To swallow the accursed soil, roar the fire from 9 circles, and let the water boil, and he will drown them. Into the drowned city, the gloom of the lake, the forever breathing necropolis. Okay, so, that was a lot, but let's try to break this down. This entire story, from what I've come to understand it, brings context as to what happened on the day that Marv Pius visited Old Oakburn, and the day everyone went missing. Throughout this book, it takes reference to the City of Snow, which Old Oakburn lives up in Alaska and it snows a lot there. How he descended from the mountains, reference to him stumbling into the town, and the people's account of his appearance. The people of the city at the florid orange sunrise would soon regret their pity, as in Marv Pius was actually luring them with songs that flowed through their wind, and it actually was a ploy to drown all of these people in the lake. But either way, a lot of Marv's description actually gives an explanation on why he comes from the lake. This is some concept art that Red Diamond has put out, and as it turns out, Marv isn't just a goat man, he's also a fish. This episode was broken up into 2 segments. Necropolis, which is a graveyard city, and Reunion. We see pages of Marv Pius and a snake, taking reference to the serpent's tongue. The next page is a triangle with circles around it, with Martha's name written in the middle. This could be a reference to Martha now being the antithesis of Ethan. Even though she left due to his obsession with circles, Martha is now obsessed with finding out what the hell this Marv guy is up to. The circles and the triangle making more sense to be linked to Ethan due to the obsession with the circles. And Martha was avoidant of the circles, but is still stuck obsessing over something else. It's the 2 sides of the same coin, basically. After seeing her name written in the book, it asked, "Will you behold me? Turn to me. Thou shalt hear the serpent utter through thy brother's mouth." We then see Martha slowly turning around in the darkness, the only light source being a window reflecting the moonlight. Some weird, trippy stuff happens in the darkness, and then suddenly we see Marv. Of red shows that he's got that Marcus the Worm body.
Do you like rigatoni pasta?
Marcus,
rigatoni pasta.
Marcus, you're rambling. I really need some water, you know? Ow!
After looking into Martha's eye, we get to see the full body of Marv. And as you can see, he's a goatfish. And here you are, entrapped within my shadow. Fear not. Contain your shivers, for there are horrors beyond my rot. Our bane, our sigils, our blood and roots are shared, an eternal bond. Shall we recall those times? Or have you grown to arbor our very nature, like earth itself, those wrathful days as I hold your lifeless corpse, when in that lake I commune with beings far beyond. I contested death itself and welcome a vile force to bathe the land in blasphemy, damned me to those depths, to choke for eons, a fragment form rotten. I reside within. So let's talk about this. This seems to be some sort of conversation Marv is having with Martha, saying that the sigils and their blood are related, hence backing up the whole theory I had earlier. This could also explain why Martha decided to do this alone. She is intrinsically tied to all of this. Somehow she's related to this thing. It said it once held her corpse. How is this all related? How is Martha related to this thing? It's probably more heavily explained in the next part, so I'm gonna save it until then. We get another rant that takes reference to 9 circles, and in it, it seems that the reason Marv is so obsessed with this drowned city is as some sort of revenge. In this passage, it says, "To the land that plunged me into darkest pits, to blazing marble, to the drowned city below, and those who skimmed the lungs of mine will scream into the void." Perhaps this act of drowning people is enacting exactly how Marv was punished, drowned in water, having his lungs converted into a more fish-like appearance to survive, to seek out the city of light and drown it, just like he was. We then see the same triangle sigil with a new name, Martha Ludolph, dated 1852. Another name is shown alongside the circle sigil, Matthias Ludolph, dated 1852 to 1897. as we know, Martha's last name in the series is Astor. So could it be possible when Marv is talking about how he knew Martha and how they're connected, he's actually talking about Martha Ludolph? Maybe Martha Astor is a reincarnation. I mean, Martha Astor having a tie to the symbol and sharing the same name as some person from colonial times might indicate some sort of witchcraft or something. I don't know. Maybe the goat man may have given me that impression. Look, I'm just spitballing ideas here. I see a lot of people talk about how this is an eldritch horror, but I think given all of the symbolism and religious references, just in this episode alone, this is more like witchcraft horror or like cult horror than it is Lovecraftian, but that's just my opinion. And it's stuff like this where I would argue it fits more in the culty territory better than like cosmic horror. We then see this Oakburn logo where the town used to be symbolized by a snake, and the town's founding is the same year Matthias Ludolph dies. Could this be in reference to the serpent? Is Matthias linked to the serpent? This installment ends by explaining how all of the findings of Martha Astor were recovered in the mid-2010s, and that we are only now seeing all of this in 2024, meaning that Martha isn't putting out these tapes herself. There's also a good chance that Martha is probably obscuring her true identity based on these findings. And that's it. That's Oakburn Opus Part 3. We actually get a lot more lore in this segment than I think the other parts. While the other parts were important to establish lore and sort of kickstart Martha's journey to uncover the secrets of this missing town and the drowned city, it gives us a lot of explanations surrounding what the hell Marv is, and my theory as of right now is that he is a vengeful monster who was drowned in a lake, adapted into a fish man, and now wants a whole city of people to drown as a sort of revenge for drowning him all those years ago. Martha Astor is our main character, who left Ethan Astor, who was taken by the Circle, and is probably the reincarnation of Martha Ludolph, who we don't know too much about yet, but we know that Martha has ties to Marv Pius, and is linked to the triangle, circle, or circle-triangle visuals in some way. And at the time that I was first introduced to this series, that's all I was given to work with. But during the production of this video, Oakburn Opus Lies came out, and it is 30 minutes long. So Lies starts with two people holding out their hands in the air like they just don't care, arguing about who will win him, and leading someone down a road they were sent. We then see an office with a corkboard looking for the connection to Pepe Silva, I guess. Actually, it's just all the weird imagery of the sigils, flute players, and a missing persons poster. We then get a voice message from Martha Astor, who we get to see more of, and she low-key kind of looks like Sigourney Weaver when she was in Alien.
Carter, listen to me, you're making a mistake.
We then see a car driving in the direction of Lake Oakburn, once again using 3D visuals that have drastically been improving since Part 3. Just let them cook, I say, let them cook!
Talk to me! Don't you dare turn away! Don't you dare listen to him! I told you I'm working on it, for God's sakes, Carter! Answer the phone!
Anyways, pick up the fucking phone! You stupid bitch!
Just where the hell are you? What the hell were you thinking with that message? Stay away, Anthony, please! Don't follow the melody!
Bilks, I know you can hear me! Pick up the phone!
This phone call is dated December of 2003, around the time that the Lebedev brothers were murdered. Part 1, Call of the Wind. We follow Anthony Carter, someone who has experienced a loss in 1997, most likely what happened at Old Oakburn. Over the years, people have given him their thoughts and prayers. He's told that time does heal things and that he should just hold on to the idea that eventually with time, things will be better. Things did not get better. We then cut to a casual scene of a cult in the mountains. Okay, I'm kidding. They're actually stone memorials. These outstretched people turned from us are actually statues to commemorate the missing people. Over time, they built 900 of these statues, and we learned that Anthony Carter's wife and daughter, Catherine and Ashley, disappeared the day Old Oakburn vanished. Anthony recalls that night when the disappearances happened, They were all dreaming of the symbols. We get another passage of sorts. See the father. He grieves and withers, his mind a fiery sun, as he seeks the spirit of death. Thunders draw close, and a shadow halts his door. All the while, there is the sound of a gun barrel being spun and clicked. Anthony gets a mysterious tape that arrives at his door. The note left with it talks about wielding evil, yet working in good. It offers a piece of itself as a gift that no one else has seen, given emphasis on the sigil left as a sort of calling card. The tape is played for us as it glitches into a trippy visual Polybus cube thing. And then we get some really interesting artwork. This artwork shows us familiar things that we've seen. You know, the sigils, the snake, the last name Ludolf, but also Lady Justice, 2 lions, the Pied Piper, and whatever this is. This is the Book of Marv Pius I. Remember that the second book was read in the last part. This is the prequel book of sorts. The story talks about a grieving parent who bargained with a serpent to redeem her motherhood on the shores of the Weser River, and the water turned crimson as the blood of our children sunk below. The covenant was fulfilled, and raised were the object of our grief. The twins. We are then shown this imagery of a Pied Piper with the circles, triangle symbol on the left, and a woman with the triangle circle symbol on the right. This could be in reference to the twins in question, one heavily in reference to Marv, and the other in reference to either Martha or just some woman in general, is what this symbol is heavily paired with. Yet the compact command the sorcerer's willingness. Contrarily, the viper won't sink its teeth. Symbols speak the language of our faith. So now we finally understand what this circle and triangle thing all means and what it's supposed to represent. Obviously, the circle is the cycle of obsession, as established in the Circles VHS tape. Yep, got it, makes sense. The triangle is fire. Okay, sure, makes sense, I think. However, the inverse of that triangle is water. So when we look at these two sigils again, the triangle with the circles around it is facing upwards, so it's a fire surrounded by obsession. And the other symbol is a circle with the inverse triangles inside it, so the cycle is full of water. Did that make sense? I just thought that these were two sides of the same sigil, and I mean, I guess I'm kind of right, but now I'm trying to play Fire Boy and Water Girl with this shit. Finally, the line is the bond. It goes on to explain how the serpent would grant power like eternal life to those who make a deal with it. One can only speculate about the sorcerer's mental state, but as for the Ludolf, with all due respect, I wish to refrain from discussing her personal tragedies. Truth is, the serpent is a luring elixir viate, oozing from the viper's fangs. So, we already discussed how Martha Ludolf is tied to the fire symbol, as I will now call it, and Matthias is the water symbol. When this passage mentions refraining from her personal tragedy, it could be possible that it's talking about her being a grieving parent, as the passage talks about how she's trying to restore her motherhood. The sorcerer, I suspect, could be Matthias Ludolf. She cries your name every night, the little one, come to the lake. Here my forces lay strong should you wish to dry her tears. The sigil is the key. You know which one. So Anthony calls up Martha, who is tired of Martha's condolences, which is probably what those thoughts and prayers calls were. He then asks if there really is something inside you, besides that husk.
That was rude. That was pretty fucking rude.
He says that he might have found the solution, and that the symbols have the power to save his family, and to fix all of this, which was probably the last phone call that Anthony left Martha before she tried calling him back, begging not to go there. We see the statues around Old Oakburn, and Marv just chilling, I guess.
Hey.
We then get to see pictures of the Carter family, and this weird drawing of swans and a heart for some reason. Journey home had all the black stones turned to him, a grimace in each and a judging stare. We see the newspaper article on the disappearance and the missing person's picture of what we now know is some of the missing people who vanished at Old Oakburn, including Ashley and Catherine Carter. Their disappearance has been Anthony's obsession, as he is stuck in this cycle. So Anthony goes home. Part 2, Blue Crystal Fire. We get some pictures of the inside of the Carter home. The entire house is casted in a blue hue, and it seems that all of the electricity is out. We then go into Ashley's bedroom. Everything in the house stands still. Nothing has been touched. On the walls of Ashley's rooms are drawings of swans and a book with a swan on the front. It's Ashley's diary. From October 3rd, my birthday, to October 7th, 1997, Ashley was drawing the events of a visitor who was deeply injured who stumbled into town, likely referring to Marv Pius coming to Old Oakburn. And it's the story you've already been told. The people took care of this wandering stranger, he starts playing funky music, people were dancing around bonfires to the soothing rhythm, all the same stuff you've heard before, except from the perspective of a child who was actually there. On October 8th, Marv and Ashley went on a walk through the woods. Marv tells Ashley that he had been there a very long time, and even saw some of the oldest houses being built in Oakburn, dating Marv perhaps back to the beginning of Oakburn's existence. He led people to the settlement and it thrived up until the times of wrath, which Ashley actually describes as a great fire. Marv says that he carries that loss and the past could not be redeemed. "Would you like to see something beautiful?" he said, and we walked out of the woods to the shore of the lake, and in the lake swims a beautiful white swan, as in my dreams and the beautiful images that come from his flute. Dad says that the lake is barren, that there is no fish and no animals drink there, that no life could exist in those waters. But the flutist says that he and death walk side by side. October 9th, one day before the magnum opus, the Carter family's last recorded phone call. What we get is a one-sided call from Anthony's end explaining that he won't be coming home that night because of an incident with one of their trainers and a rifle. Most likely a shooting incident. Apparently, whatever it was, it's gonna keep him away for about a week. But he promised that he'd be back to get Ashley some expensive colored pencils. Also that he misses them and loves them both very, very much. Candles are lit on an altar with the pictures of Catherine and Ashley. Drawn on the floor is the water symbol, a circle with inverse triangles. Anthony kneels down and chants his devotion and begs for the Lord of Rats to speak to him and let his family go. As the fires are snuffed out, Anthony is led to follow a melody. "Where are you, Anthony?" whose anguish cries, "Drew towards me with all of your force. You begged my presence. You implored my voice. Now hearing my melody, seek the wind. Once so prosperous your love, would you rejoin them?" The melody takes Anthony to the lake of Old Oakburn, where Marv meets him. In size comparison, Marv is at least 2 times taller than the average person, which makes sense as Ashley also describes Marv as towering over everyone in town. So Marv rambles his riddles and Anthony is all like, "Dog, what the fuck are you even talking about?" And he's all like,
Shut up, the fuck up. I don't care. I do not care.
As the screen turns red, there is inverse text on screen for a brief moment. When flipping the image, you can see that these are both letters from Anthony to his wife and daughter. The one to his wife laments on how he failed to find her, that he should have ran through the woods screaming their names until they were finally found. The other to his daughter compliments her drawings and how sad it is that she will never grow to draw again. Part 3, The Boy with the Gun. After the encounter, Carter wanders in the mountains for 5 days, allegedly in a deranged state of mind. As the red phases out, we see a familiar location, the Lebedev home. We cut to the inside and witness someone being knocked out in a red room. It seems that the John Doe that killed the Lebedevs back in part 2 was Anthony Carter, the person Martha was trying to stop from following the flutist. The one who relied on Martha to bring back his family decided to become a vessel for Marv Pius to kill the Lebedevs. But why? We have a conversation between someone unnamed and Martha. It seems in this conversation, Martha is instructing that they take them out to the lake and make sure that they sink. This "they" is in reference to the Lebedevs, whose final moments looked...
He needs some milk!
Lovely. Meanwhile, Anthony is completely washed out in white. Martha says that she will take care of Anthony personally, as the text under her picture reads, "See the Aster. Her stare is empty and she rewrites our tragedies. That night, In their papers, she writes the brothers drowned and sunk. That night, in her condolences, she says Anthony Carter laid face down in blood, with 5 bullets in the chamber and another in his head. She lies. She lies because no lamb shall fear any wolves, for all the wolves have drowned. But in truth, only one wolf drowned, didn't it, Martha? We have overstayed our welcome. The only path for redemption is our destruction. It seems that for whatever reason, Martha Astor was the one who labeled the deaths of the Lebedev brothers as a drowning, despite seeing what obviously was a murder. According to her account, Carter had committed suicide despite seemingly being the one that was killing these men and is still alive to have this interview. And as the text says, only one wolf actually drowned. And it seems that the only way to actually solve what's going on here is something destructive. We are left with the visual of the Pied Piper and the woman in the snow, with a flash of the grieving mother in the circle, stuck in the cycle of obsession as we hear the drips of water end the tape. And that was Oakburn Opus Lies. Now, the question is, what does all of this really mean? The story of Oakburn Opus does have a pretty straightforward narrative, but with everything else that's going on in the VHS tapes, it all seems connected, but it's very hard to see how it's all fitting timeline-wise. So this is how I interpret the timeline. Keep in mind, these are just my personal theories. I'm not fantastic at media analysis, so I could potentially miss some things. And also, a lot of my theories will be based on looking at, like, themes and the stuff that happens in the story, so just keep that in mind. Hi guys, so I'm back from drowning. I'm so soaked. What the fuck? So, full disclosure, right? There is another VHS tape that I didn't bother talking about. I was going to. It's called A Wasp Nest. And I was thinking about talking about it. The problem I have, and this is a critique of Oakburn Opus, I'm sure that this will probably be patched by the time the final part comes out, whenever that's ready. It's kind of hard to, like, figure out how the VHS tapes and the actual series Oakburn Opus is supposed to correlate. Like, the only thing that really, like, connects the two series is, like, similar last names that characters have, symbols, and apparently Marv Pius has a bunch of holes in his face because of some weird experiment that happened in Wasp Nest like 60 years ago. It's just a little hard to talk about, as of right now, how the VHS tapes and how Oakburn Opus kind of connects. And I swear it's not because I'm stupid, it's just that I want to focus on just this guy right here. Where is he? Where did you go? There you are. Look at him. So, in terms of what I think about this series, I think there's a lot of big themes that come into play with Oakburn Opus. The first, obviously, being obsession, right? All the characters, to some degree, are obsessed with the happenings around old Oakburn. Whether that's solving what happened or hiding what happened. A big part of horror is just not understanding and not knowing what's going on, right? Obsessively trying to seek answers to something that doesn't have an answer. And that's where most horror derives from, right? It's the horrors of the unknown, not having a explanation to why things happen the way they do that makes sense to us. So what's happening is a bunch of characters that are hyperfixating on why things are happening in their towns, in their cities with like little to no explanation, and they're like the only characters that are actively trying to do anything about it. I can see why people would get a little obsessive over the happenings in Old Oakburn. Like, if I had a bunch of like circles appear in the sky and everyone's advice is just ignore it and just leave town and it'll be fine, I would just be a little curious too. So let's talk about like each of the characters, right? Of course we have our main character who is, I guess, slowly becoming an antagonist, maybe? Martha Astor, who is for some reason hiding what actually happened to the Lebedev brothers and what happened to Anthony Carter, and like seemingly has a connection to Marv Pius somehow. We also have like Martha Ludolph, who I'm still theorizing is the same person. Obviously, I think it's pretty apparent. What Marv's powers consist of is like obviously people committing mass drowning, right? But also there's the fact that he utilizes people as a vessel, like revive people as a vessel. He says that to Anthony Carter when talking to him at the lake. He claims that Martha is a vessel and that he's held her corpse in her arms. So my theory is that Martha is like a Martha Ludolph, obviously, but like the reason why she goes by Martha Astor is because she's a vessel of Marv Pius, and Marv Pius has the ability to grant everlasting life and death. So what has to be going on is that for some people he will drown into the drowned city, but I don't think those people are actually dead. Sure, the tape seems to indicate that with all the screaming or whatever, but I truly do think that old Oakburn just kind of disappeared and they're all probably vessels of Marv Pius that are existing somewhere deep, maybe even in the catacombs where he's at. I don't know. Either way, I think Marv Pius as like a horror character is really fucking cool. Like really fucking cool. The build up to him being like a flute player, and it's like, oh, it's like a Pied Piper thing. It's like a callback to Marsyas from Greek mythology, and the slow build up into revealing that he's like a fish man. Fucking awesome. To figure out like the connection here, I believe that Martha Ludolph came to Marv Pius, made a deal with the serpent, right? Which is just like making a deal with otherworldly entities out of grief for losing like a family member, her child most likely, to restore her motherhood, which then resurrected her into a vessel. I think that Martha and Matthias were probably married, a married couple that lost their families, lost their children, made a deal with Marv Pius all the way back in the 1800s. And part of their deal was to be resurrected as vessels. So in a way, even though they were trying to resurrect their own children, they just kind of died and resurrected themselves as vessels of Marv Pius. I believe that the twins are Martha and Matthias. I originally thought that Matthias was the sorcerer, right, that she made a deal with. But now that I'm like thinking about the twin story and thinking about how Marv Pius resurrects people as vessels and how he didn't actually like kill Anthony Carter when he sought him out, he actually resurrects them as vessels and talks about in Martha with part 3 how he used to hold her corpse. I think the deal that Martha Ludolph and Matthias Ludolph made all those years ago when they lost their children was to die, be drowned, and resurrected as vessels for Marv Pius. But then Matthias dies, old Oakburn is established, and Martha just kind of lives on and then tries her best in the modern day to not bring so much attention to Marv, just kind of pretend that he doesn't exist despite the fact that they are intrinsically connected. Martha is avoidant of anything that has anything to do with like cosmic, supernatural, whatever it may be, because she's the reason why Marv Pius exists. Marv Pius is the reason why Martha's here. Martha summoned him out of her own grief and then drowned and became a vessel of Marv Pius, but in current day is trying to avoid the thing that she brought into this world. And anything that surrounds him, like Anthony seeking out the melody and becoming a vessel himself, the murder of the Lebedevs, all of that is only happening because of her, because she's the one that decided to summon this thing all those years ago, and all of this is happening because it's all her fault and she effectively just doesn't want to confront it. And that's why the VHS series is kind of hard to connect back to all this, because I feel like Marv Pius is the main antagonist of this series, but then you have whatever the fuck is in the Starving Five, and that's clearly not Marv Pius. That has nothing to really do with that guy. Then you have the Circles phenomenon, which is mentioned in like symbolism, but like never is really picked up on again. And don't even get me started on what the fuck is going on with the Wasp's Nest thing. I don't fucking know. I think the main focus as of right now is just what's going on with old Oakburn and everything that's going on with Marv Pius, and everything that's happening in the VHS tapes have to be little like tidbits as to what else is going on in Alaska and not intrinsically related. But again, there are also like characters who have very similar last names, like Alex Lebedev in the Starving Five, and then his family in the Lebedevs in part 2 get murdered. Then there's like Ethan Astor and Martha Astor. So all of this has to be somewhat related. I just don't really know how, and maybe it might be explained in part 5 whenever that comes out. That's supposed to be the finale, but I'm not sure, unless if that finale is going to be an hour long, how it's all going to be interconnected. But needless to say, I am incredibly intrigued to see how this all comes together. So much of Oakburn Opus stands out to me because it feels like a lot of other analog horror will not establish their own folklore, if that makes any sense. Like, a lot of other analog horrors try to just exist as something that could plausibly happen in our world, and this does this too, but the town of Itosavik doesn't actually exist. It's a completely made-up Alaskan town, right? So what Red Diamond is effectively doing is creating an entirely new place with brand new folklore and like building up something out of completely nothing. And I think doing that is far more impressive than making fake FBI PSAs and being like, this is happening in our world. No. Whatever's happening in Oakburn Opus is happening in the world of Red Diamond. It's not happening in our theoretical reality. It's happening in their made up, actually well put together reality. And that's why I love this shit. I love this series. I love it so much. And I wouldn't have figured out about this series without all of you. If it wasn't for the audience that I have, the wonderful, beautiful people over on Patreon, this would have never gotten made. This whole video is a labor of love of something that I've been just so obsessed with for so long, and I am so happy that you guys decided to stick around and watch me dressed up as a goat lady for about an hour. Ramble on about this underrated gem, so thank you so much for watching. So until then, until we get to Oakburn Opus Part 2, go check out the original series, subscribe to Red Diamond, he's fucking awesome, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye. Happy Halloween. Ooh.
The end.